The following is a true story, called Labor Day, by Luis Lopez. "Take some food with you," my cousin said, and it did look tempting, so I grabbed a couple of paper plates and loaded them up. It was Labor Day, 2016. I had spent the day visiting family at my aunt and uncle's house in Wildemar, as desert ranch a place as can be. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust, and quite a few underutilized horses paced around in the late summer sun. I hardly got the chance to see this side of my family anymore because of general life stuff, so it was nice to accumulate some quality time. It's become common to see people I didn't recognize at these kinds of family gatherings, and this time was no different. I tried to compartmentalize each of these new faces as something like a cousin, even if that wasn't quite correct. But it helped. My uncle and aunt had barbecued. Carne asada, roasted chicken, hamburgers, hot dogs, a wide assortment of appetizers and finger foods. My mouth watered at the mere sight, and by the time my belly was over full, I was somehow still considering more of that decadent cookie caramel mousse. But the day had worn on, and I needed to get back home in a decent hour. So, laden down with food at the behest of my actual cousin, I said my goodbyes and got in the car. One of the things that helps cut down the monotony of daily driving is podcasts. They're fun, sometimes informative, and it kind of feels like I'm getting something done when I'm listening to them. The most recent episode of Hello Internet had somehow flown under my radar, and this was likely to be quite a drive back to LA, so I loaded it up and began to listen. I drove a bit down the dusty road and came to a four-way stop. There weren't any other cars on the road, so I figured it was safe to pull up the navigation app on my phone. I didn't know exactly how to get back home from where I was, so I typed in the address of a sudden screeching of tires on gravel assaulted my ears. I looked into my rearview mirror just in time to see a civilian work truck swerve to the right, just barely avoiding crashing into my small car. The driver wore sunglasses and his face was expressionless. The truck came to a halt about 2 feet into the space of what would have been my car, had he not swerved at the last second. In general, I don't like to be upset with anything, so I shrugged this off and drove on, mumbling, "Fucking asshole," under my breath. Looking in the mirror, I saw the truck pull back onto the road, not stop at the four-way for even a second, and stutter back out of his lane again. Is he drunk? A traffic light came up ahead, and I began to get into the right-hand lane. I saw the truck behind me also get into the right-hand turn lane, but he veered off the road again, sending up a cloud of dust. I quickly turned the wheel to the left and made room for the truck to take the turn lane before me. "Go! Just go! You are not staying behind me," I dictated, pointing my finger to the turn lane. Even in his drunken stupor, the driver must have gotten the hint as he took the turn. Feeling relieved, I waited a bit before turning right. Another car appeared behind me, a small Toyota. By comparison, this car was a beacon of proper road etiquette. They maintained safe speeds and distances. They never veered off the road. It was refreshing. I could see the work truck wobbling down the street up ahead. Wait, where's he going? Ah, shit, I muttered. The on-ramp was on the left. I needed to take the highway, and apparently so did the truck. I was forced to pull up behind him in the turn lane. I couldn't see his face through the back windshield, but I imagine it must have been giving me a drunken death glare. The calm Toyota lined up with us. The light turned green and the truck jerked forward, making a hectic left onto the highway. I gave him a bit of room, and then took the on-ramp. The white Toyota followed. Halfway up the on-ramp, the truck started over onto the shoulder, coming to a sudden halt. "Okay," I said, and sped up just to get away from this dicey individual. The Toyota also sped up a bit. I looked in my rearview mirror. The truck had screeched back onto the on-ramp as we merged onto the highway, and I could hear the strain of its engine as the driver floored it. I changed lanes, and the Toyota did as well. The truck caught up with us and merged wildly, cutting off the Toyota, nearly slamming into it, and then began to tailgate me. He was close enough to my bumper that I could see his blank, lifeless face in my mirror. His eyes were still hidden behind his sunglasses. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. There was nothing. I changed lanes, thinking maybe he was done being an asshole, and the truck followed immediately. He stayed right behind me. My car is pretty quick when it needs to be, so I sped up, but I couldn't get very far on the crowded highway. He stayed right behind me. I merged lanes again, and he stayed right behind me. He got so close that we were merging as one unit, which would have been extremely impressive if it was on purpose. But it was not. I began to get afraid. I raised my hand in a questioning gesture. He saw and did not respond. No grin, no grimace, nothing at all. This guy was on bath salts or something. I raced forward again, and he followed. I had to hit the brakes to avoid tapping the car in front of me, and the work truck nearly fisted the back end of my car. Either because he was trying to make a point, or because his reaction timing was just that impaired. I couldn't tell which, but then I got an idea. There was just enough room for one car in front of a vehicle in the next lane. If I merged into that space, the truck couldn't follow. It wouldn't fit, there would be no room, so I tried to make my escape. Speeding up and merging in a dickish fashion, I took the space in front of the vehicle. Somehow, against all odds, the truck stayed with me. He half cut off, half forced out the other vehicle, which justifiably honked its horn. "What the fuck?" I yelled. How was this real? How could any of this really be happening to me? Keep in mind, I'd gotten so used to being a decent driver that I was still using my turn signals purely out of habit. So maybe I had been telegraphing my genius movements. But it's also a grim possibility that the truck was so close to me that my rear turn signals weren't even visible past its own dashboard. So I guess it didn't matter anyway. The point is, you need to understand that this truck got dangerously close to me, within mere inches, millimeters. He could have caved in the back of my car at any time, even if he didn't actually mean to in the moment. That thought made me truly scared. I was terrified, not of the person, but of the damage he could unintentionally do to my car. He could fucking destroy it, and I had just bought it a year ago. When my old car had finally given up the ghost, I put about a month's worth of research into what sort of car I wanted, what was within my budget, and what would give me the most miles per gallon. Eventually, I decided on a car that struck the perfect balance between aesthetic appeal, small size, and MPG. After an additional month of calling up individual dealerships, I finally found one that had a Honda CR-Z EX priced within my budget. It was the most expensive thing I had ever bought, and it represented the single most responsible adult decision I had ever made. And there was a decent chance that some miserable fucking prick with a misguided grudge and a drug-addled brain was about to total it on accident. "What? What do you want?" I yelled into the expressionless void. A big Ford truck appeared next to me. It was the kind of truck that had been aftermarketed with ridiculous monster truck tires, custom blacked-out taillights, and even a long LED light bar mounted to the roof. This beast was supposed to be intimidating, which maybe I could use to my advantage. My previous escape attempt hadn't worked before, but maybe the Flaka-fueled work truck wouldn't try to take on something bigger than itself. It was pretty much the last option at my disposal. I had no more ideas. This was it. I changed lanes in front of the Ford, leaving no room in between, and the work truck tried to scare the Ford out of its lane, but it didn't work. The vehicles played a game of freeway chicken, and the work truck lost. Through the rearview mirror, I saw the driver of the Ford leaning out his window, waving his hands at the work truck, yelling, threatening. But this time, something had changed. The drunk and/or high truck driver was flipping off the Ford, anger contorting his once composed face. His teeth were bared. He had been unable to merge into my lane, unable to keep chasing me in my little car. And he was pissed. The lane opened up in front of me, and I sped off, giving it all I had. I merged a couple more times, putting a fair amount of vehicles between us, until I couldn't see the work truck anymore. I didn't know if they were still back there, impotent in their pursuits. They may have exited the highway. Maybe they caused a different accident. I just don't know. It was only then that it occurred to me to call 911. I dialed the number into my phone, and the radio died while the Bluetooth call began. 911, what's your emergency? Hi, I'm on the 15 northbound, and someone in a civilian work truck was chasing me. He was literally chasing me down the highway. He almost crashed into me multiple times. This guy's high or something. Okay, you said it was a work truck? Yeah, a white work truck with one of those bed racks for putting shovels and shit onto. He's really dangerous. This isn't the only call you're gonna get about him today. Okay, sir, is he still chasing you? No, I got away from him. I can't see him anymore. I'll notify local police. Continue on your way, but do not attempt to follow him. Yes, ma'am. If you see him again, call us back. Thank you very much. When the 911 call ended, the episode of Hello Internet came back on over my car's speakers. It had been playing the entire time, but I hadn't actually registered any of it. Not one bit. I exited the highway and stopped at a gas station. I backed the podcast up to the last point in the episode I remembered hearing and checked the timestamp. About 12 minutes. What felt like an hour-long hellish ordeal had taken less time than it would to get a pizza delivered. I never saw the truck again, and I hope it stays that way.